The Prince of Persia: Sands of Time is a game that came out in 2002. It was and it is a masterpiece. The combat was amazing, like even today, and the soundtrack was incredible, and the platforming was cool as fuck. There was also some pretty neat time traveling mechanics going on, kind of. The story, however, was kind of forgettable, to be honest. Still, it came out 17 years ago, and I consider it a masterpiece to this day. That is pretty impressive at the very least. When you say that, I would say that. In fact, I am saying that. So what does that all have to do with this one game that no one has ever heard of, The Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard? Well, Redguard was a platformer. It was the first and only Elder Scrolls game with a named protagonist. It came out only 4 years before PoP SOT, and believe it or not, it was actually sort of marketed as a bit of a swashbuckling game with epic sword fighting, or rather, action-based swashbuckling overtones. Now, to be perfectly honest, that sounds awesome. Imagine if we got an Elder Scrolls game today that was all about jumping around, doing acrobatics and sword fighting and shit. Yeah, that sounds awesome. And that's because it is, if you do it correctly, without using a Bethesda engine or something. But Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard was not made today. It was made in 1998, and for several good reasons, people generally do not play this game, because it is not that good. But, you know, if that game was actually irredeemable or something, I would probably not be talking about it. In fact, I would probably be spending my time playing Fallout New Vegas instead. There is actually a ton of good writing and engaging dialogue in the game.
Wake up, sucker! We're thieves and we're bad guys. And the
story is relatively compelling. I'm not kidding. The dialogue in this game is amazing. Okay, the story is not that compelling, but you know, it is pretty okay. When people bought the game, they also got a copy of a comic book featuring the main character's backstory. In fact, the comic was literally called The Origin of Cyrus. It's not anything special, but I personally love it. The basic plot is that he kills his sister's husbands, and he becomes a mercenary, and at one point he kills a bunch of Dark Elf slavers, and he frees a whole bunch of Kashyyyk slaves. The game takes place during the Tiber Wars, when Tiber Septim was in the process of unifying the lands of Tamriel under his banner, by treaty and by force. The entirety of Hammerfell had recently been conquered by the Imperial Legion, most notably thanks to the efforts of Admiral Emil Richten and a dragon named Nephelolagus. Shortly after the Battle of Sturs Makai, a Redguard mercenary in Varest named Cyrus receives a letter from his old friend and employer, Captain Tobias. "Cyrus, I hope this letter finds your hands, friend. My latest travels have brought me to Sturs Makai, and no one here has seen your sister for 3 months. I fear the worst. I feel obligated to stay for a few weeks. I will be at the Dragon Tail Inn, should you return. Tobias." After receiving the letter, Cyrus sets sail to Sturs Makai, and there his adventure begins. Basically, the plot of Redguard is that you have to save your sister from an evil empire, and also there's this creepy bodyguard / assassin type character who dresses in green, and also you join a bunch of rebels along the way. I don't know, there's a lot of cool shit that happens in the game. Cyrus fights a slowed necromancer. 2. Cyrus confronts Clavicus Vile and his shape-shifting dog Barbas in order to save his sister. Cyrus, his sister, a bunch of pirates, and some Yukuda natives try to resurrect a literal corpse of a prince using a soul gem, and instead of resurrecting the prince, they just enchant his sword. What a bunch of fucking morons. Yeah, you could have avoided this, you know, you could just played Skyrim, fucking idiots. But somehow, Cyrus actually managed to deliver a pretty inspiring speech.
Is this how you will honor your prince, then? Cautious, I've thought you, Basil, but never before, a coward. We all have waited for the prince's return. Now that he has returned, you walk away. The form is different, true, but his spirit is here. And isn't his spirit the truest part of him? Did it occur that maybe he chose this shape and symbol as the sign of his intentions? Perhaps that soul hated to lay snared helpless in a jewel while his men hid and shirked their duties. His duty. Perhaps that soul honed itself to this, and by no mistake comes to you now in no more fine and final form as this. A sword. You say you cannot follow a sword? Well, I say that you have strayed from your own too long. Why are you here but to fight? Your prince has shown you the manner of his purest metal, aye, and metal itself. And this true, unerring razor's message is clear beyond words, for now's not the time for words, but for brave hands, bright swords, and blood. Aye, boys, it's about blood now, too long frozen in your veins. And you'd rather yourself be regent than follow me. Well, if you won't, then shamefully know that your prince will, for his blood be solid too, but straightened to steel and tempered in death. Arise alike as he, as swords as we are crowns alike as he. The prince is dead! Long live the prince!
After that massive fuck-up. There's a cow. Yep, that's a cow. Yeah, you can also apply. You can also at one point you get turned in. You basically get turned into a walking and talking ball sack. I'm not making that up. Giotto. Yeah, there's a character named Giotto. And he's a cat.
Giotto, 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 and Giotto, 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 Giotto.
Giotto!
Errol Flynn was a Hollywood actor who was in a whole bunch of movies, such as Captain Blood, which was a movie about pirates and sword fighting, and The Adventures of Robin Hood, which was a movie about a mythical bandit leader and sword fighting. These movies all prominently featured impressive acrobatics and sword fighting. Towards the end of his life, Errol Flynn made a documentary about the Cuban Revolution, and he also made a really shitty movie called Cuban Rebel Girls. Okay, so why am I talking about Errol Flynn? How is he relevant to Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard? I have no idea. I don't know. Who knows, man? Okay, so what does Redguard have to do with Prince of Persia? As it turns out, I am not the first person to mention Prince of Persia while talking about Redguard. And there's a good reason for that. As other people already mentioned before, the platforming and sword fighting is very reminiscent of the original 2D Prince of Persia games. And as we know, there are only 4 years between Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard and Prince of Persia Sands of Time. Imagine if...
Flash! No flash, flash, flash! Flash! No flash, 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 flash! Flash, flash! Flash, flash, flash! Flash! Ah! Flash! No flash, flash, flash! Flash, flash! Flash, flash, flash! Flash, flash! Flash, flash, flash!
If they, imagine if they remade Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard, but with a better engine, better voice actors, better platforming, better sounds, better everything, and so on. I mean, wouldn't that be great? Yeah, yeah. It would also be pretty cool if they made the city of Sturzmakai to be roughly the same size as Novigrad from The Witcher 3. I would love to play that. In conclusion, Elder Scrolls Adventures Redguard is a pretty neat game. And I do not recommend it per se, but a remake would be pretty nice. 10 out of 10.